Today. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple people to read for me a little bit. Like, not too much. Just a little bit. One, because it helps me with my nerves. Two, I like to hear other people's voices in the middle. So, wait, before I even start, I have a testimony. Like, God has just been so good to me. No, like, really good to me. Like, I don't know about y'all, but like great to me. So 2 days ago on Wednesday night, I was at a poetry like competition type thing. It's a slam, and I got my car towed. Tragic, I know. Got my car towed. I started crying, hyperventilating. It was really, really bad. And Issy was there. She took the phone from me. I was talking to the tow people, and they were telling me it's going to cost you like $250 to get your car back. And I'm like, one, I don't have that. And I don't know where I'm going to get it. So anyway, so I go back into the poetry thing to go up. I had to go up again. So I go in there, and before I even started, I was because I was like sweating, crying a little bit. I was shaking, and I told them, I was like, hey, you guys, like, I'm really trying to pull it together. I just got my car towed. I don't know how to handle it. Anyway, I do the poem. I get off stage, and first things first, I got second place. The girl who got first place gave me her prize money to help with the tow truck. Crazy, right? That was just a little bit. So, and then I'm walking out. Another random lady walks up to me, and she was like, hey, how much is it going to cost to get your car? I was like, $250. And she was like, I have $250. And I'm like, lady, listen, don't make me cry. Don't do that. And she was like, no, really, let's do it. So she hops in the car with me and Issy, and we go to the tow truck place. The guy gives us this long runaround. He was like, no, because the car's in your dad's name, he has to be here. The insurance is in your mom's name. She got to be here. You can't get your car. It was this whole thing. Anyway, the girl who was going to pay for it, she couldn't pay for it. So we ended up dropping her back off. So I was just like really distraught, right? So the next morning, I was up at like 6. I was crying because I was like, I don't know where I'm going to get that money. I can't call my parents for that money because I'm supposed to be like an independent black woman, right? I can't like call my parents. So I was like, until I figure it out, I'm not going to call them, right? So I'm like rolling, because I'm dramatic. I'm like rolling on the ground, like on the carpet in my apartment, just rolling and like crying. I'm like, God, what is this, And I'm trying to make it sound really Christian, but it was not. Like, I was just distraught, right? And so as I'm sitting there, one of my friends who wasn't even at the poetry thing heard from somebody else who was that I had like this car issue thing or whatever. And so she texted me. She was like, hey, like, did you get your car back? What's going on? And I'm like, no, I'm trying to figure out money, and I'm just, all over the place. And she was like, okay, I can send you a little something. It's not much. So she sends me $25. I'm like, cool, great, thanks. Not going to lie. I was like, what is $25 going to do for me right now? Like, I need like 100. Like, I need a jump, But I'm like, cool, thank you. You didn't have to do it. Thank you so much. Get off the phone. So she sent it to me on this app called Cash App. And you have like a little like name thing that people can send you money through. And so she posted on Facebook, and she was like, hey, guys, my sis got her car towed. If you could just bless her, put my little Cash App thing or whatever. Right then, my phone just starts blowing up. Notifications from the Cash App, $100, 20, 50, 50, 100, 100, 50. And I'm like, I'm literally looking at my phone, and it's just bloom, 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 just popping up, and I'm losing it. Anyway, I end up getting my car, right? Wonderful, right? But all of yesterday, like the entire day, I was just getting notifications of money. So this morning I calculated it, how much money I got. $915. I only needed $240. Isn't that crazy? God be loving me, man. It's just funny because he watched me like cry about it, and then knowing he was going to do something. Isn't that crazy? And the thing is, when I think of everything that happened in the last like 2 days, and I'm sitting here like, man, God is so good, or I just love God and I want to worship God. I'm not saying it because of what he's done. Yes, but I think I'm more thankful for the heart behind it. Like, why? Because of who he is why he did what he did. If that makes sense. Like, because he said he would provide, he did that. And so because he's so like to his word, that's why I'm so grateful. Like, you're so, like, when you say you're something, you are that. So today we're going to talk about what God requires of us. And we're going to read from John 4. And this is a very typical like story we've all heard. It's the story of the woman at the well. Everybody's heard this story. If you've been like anywhere remotely near a church, you've heard this story. But I chose this story today because I have an issue. I identify with this woman because I have an issue, like a huge one. Quick transparency moment. I am terrible at relationships, like bad, but not in the like, while I'm in the relationship, the like getting into it, like I'm always getting into a relationship. Like that's always my testimony. I'm always in, like getting into something. And I think, okay, so recently, transparency, right? Recently, I just got out of a pretty serious relationship, and I downplayed it to a lot of people because I'm really weird with emotions. That's the thing about, I don't know how to like do all that. I don't know. I think the only person who really knows how deep that went is Issy. Even with that, I even like did a, little cover up for her. But I cried bad getting out of, bad. And I don't even cry. I cried bad getting out of that relationship. But I'm just trash. So there's like a whole story behind that. Thank you. I don't like your little side talk. Thank you. So when I chose this passage, John 4, because I identify with the woman. Now, there are many other scriptures I could have chosen to talk about what I'm going to talk about today, but I chose this one because I feel like on many levels I am her, because I'm so terrible with relationships. All right, so going into this story, before we read it, before I even decided to study it for today, if somebody was to ask me to tell this story, I would say, there's this woman at the well, and Jesus walks up to her, and he's like, hey, give me something to drink. And she's like, I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew, we're not supposed to talk. But that's the first misconception. Jesus was already at the well. Like he was already there, waiting. If we can turn to John 4, let's read it. Like I said, some people are going to read for me because I like to hear other people's voices. So when I get really weird up here, great. So if you have it, say, oh yeah. And if you don't, say, wait a minute. I don't have it. So if my phone could act right for 10 seconds, it'd be great. I should have had a real Bible up here. But technology, man. All right, so John chapter 4. Is everybody there? What is happening with my phone? My God. Okay. We're going to read verses 1 through... I lied. Verses 1 through 30, but we're going to just break it down slowly. So, I'm going to read the first few verses, and then I'm just going to pass the mic, please. People read for me, please. Okay. All right. Verse 1. Now this is ESV. Now when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, only his disciples did, he left Judea and departed again for Galilee. And he had to pass Samaria. So he came to a town of Samaria called Sychar, I'm guessing that's how it's said, near the field that Jacob had given his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, so Jesus, wearied from his journey, was sitting beside the well. It was about the 6th hour, which is like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Verse 7, a woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. So we're going to stop there for a second. So Jesus, being weary from his journey, this is in verse 6, comes to sit at the well. Verse 7, and to Samaritan woman, she walks up to the well to get water. The first thing Jesus says to her is not, hey, how are you doing? How's the day been? Man, it's really hot outside. He's like, give me something to drink. Directly to it. And to me, this is what's exciting to me. First thing I caught here is we don't know, the Bible doesn't record how long Jesus was sitting at the well. It doesn't say. But to me, Jesus being God could have just commanded the water to just come into his mouth. Like if you were really that thirsty. You know what I'm saying? You could have really just done it yourself, right? But he waits and asks her for a drink, which is to say that there's something that God is longing for that we are to satisfy. He could do it for himself, but he wants us to do it. So he asks us for it. So the woman, after Jesus, asked her for a drink, first thing is she dissociates herself. I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew, I'm dirty, you're clean, we're not even supposed to talk, let alone share a cup. Why are you asking me for a drink? What is that? And he was just this is the response that sounds so heavy. He was like, lady, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that was saying to you, give me a drink, you would give him, and he would give you living water. And I don't believe that Jesus was like stuck up or like full of himself talking in third person. I believe he was talking as the Father. And we know this because in verse, 27 or 23? Yeah, 23, he says the Father is seeking those. So we know he's talking about the Father. He said, if you knew the gift of God and who he was that was saying to you, give me a drink, you would give him, and he would give you water. All right, so can we read? Who's the first pick of the day? Come on. You guys, no, really, I'm not going to do this. Blessed, come up. Come here. John, I understand. Okay, John chapter 4. We're going to read from verse 10. So if you could come up here, because we kind of need a mic, would be great. Get a little shine. No, let him get a little shine.
All right, this is John chapter 4, verse 10. Right. Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knowest the gift of God, and who it is that said to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. All right. All right. The woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence thou hast thou that living water? Oh Lord. Let me read that again. Sir, hast thou nothing to draw with, and the well is deep? From whence hast thou that living water? Oh Lord. Okay.
Wow.
It's the King James.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, because you're really trying. King James is just hard. I don't know. There are too many. ESV is like the modern version of King James. So we could just invest in one of those. Okay, so pretty much what he's saying, like the same thing, like if you knew. You want to read it? Well, you'll read another one because he low-key took this one. Okay, we'll get to it. Hold on a minute. Okay, so right here he's saying, like if you knew this gift or whatever, you would approach me differently. In a sense, like if you understood what was actually happening, your response to this whole thing would be different. You wouldn't be like, well, I'm Samaritan, you're a Jew, whatever. You would understand what was happening. And she's saying, when she responds back, she says, are you, like, where is this living water you speak of? Like you're talking about living water. First you asked me for a drink, and then now you're talking about living water. Like, where is it? Do you even have a cup? You don't have a bucket to like fetch the water with. So what are you talking about? And then goes on to say, are you better than our father Jacob, who gave us this well, drank from it himself and his sons and his livestock? As in, like, this water is more than enough. This is good water. Like it's been here for generations. It's good. Are you better? Is your water better than that? And then Jesus' response is, your water is basic. It's simple. This little H2O you have is simple. Because people who drink from this water will get thirsty again. But I have water that when you drink from it, you will never be thirsty again. Even much so, it will become in you a well of living water. Doesn't it just sound so good? Me, because I love water, it just sounds so crisp. To me, I imagine it's cold already. Like it has little ice chips at the top, right? And you're just like, living water. And it just enters inside, you know? And he's saying, like, I have good water. Like, your water is warm. It's room temperature. Like, mine is cold water. So much so, it's so good that so much so it will become a well of living water inside of you. You won't have to keep coming back here. So her first thing is, when she says that, naturally, she's like, bet, let me have this water. Clearly, if it's so good that it becomes water inside of you, then I don't have to keep coming here. Like, give me the water so I don't have to keep coming here. And he's like, perfect. We've gone to the best part. This is what I want you to say. Like, this is where I need you. So let's read verse 15, Reynard. 15 and...
Test.
15 to 18.
The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty, or I've come here to draw water. And then Jesus said to her, Go call your husband and come here. The woman answered him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you are right in saying, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you are now, the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true. The woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say in Jerusalem is the place where people ought to worship. Jesus said to her,
Stop right there.
okay.
You low-key went a little over, but I'm going to allow you. That's cool. Okay, so right here, this is to me, this is the pivotal part of the conversation. I feel like this is what Jesus was trying to get at. Like when he first asked her for a drink, he was like, let's get through this whole thing so I can get to like this. And this is like the turn. He was like, perfect. I would love to give you this water. I would love to. Go get your husband though. Like, just go get him. And then I'll give both of y'all water. Just go get him. And she's like, oh, I don't have a husband. He's like, perfect. You said it correctly. You've actually said the right thing. You don't have one. You've had 5 of them. And the one you're shacking up with now is not even your husband. So she does, right here, what she does is what all of us do when we realize that somebody's like a man of God or a woman of God. We get like really, really righteous. We're like, okay, I see that you're a prophet. Come on. All right. Like we worship on this mountain, and you guys say we're supposed to worship in Jerusalem, but I know there's a one to come, And he's just like, lady, look, like that's not even it. Like there's a time that's coming where it's not this mountain or in Jerusalem. Like it doesn't even matter. And this thing, what I like about this, when he tells her, go get your husband, and she's like, I don't have one. He's pretty much saying like, let's deal with this thirst that keeps bringing you back here. Like why this well will never be enough. Let's talk about it. Like go get him so we can talk about it. Why you will never be quenched. Because you keep coming back here. Why do you keep coming back here? And this is, to me, whenever you ask God for something, he has a way of revealing the root of the ask. Like, why are you asking about that? Let's like dig deeper. Like, why are we praying? Why are you praying about this thing? Let's get deeper. Like exposing the root of it. What Jesus is doing here is exposing the root. Okay, you want water? Great, go get your husband. Let's talk about it. Let's open it up. And so right here when she's like, believe me, she's like, yeah, I believe I see you're a prophet or whatever, but we worship on this mountain and you guys, whatever. And he's like, listen, you guys don't worship what you don't even know. You don't even know. Like, he's like, you guys worship what you don't know. We worship what we do know because salvation is from the Jews. And here we get to what he was saying, like alluding to earlier in verse 23, where he's like, the Father is seeking those who will worship in spirit and in truth because he is spirit, and he requires those that worship him, worship in spirit and truth. What I think this chapter is talking about, I know every time it's preached, it's always about salvation or redemption, which it completely is, not taking away from that, but I think there's something more that God is trying to say. And he's saying he requires worship from us. So when he's asking her to give him a drink, he's not saying, like, give me a drink. He's saying, worship me. And so that's why when Jesus said, if you knew the gift of God and who it was that was saying to you, give me a drink, you would give him, and he would give you living water. There would be an exchange. Ooh, my throat dry. Sorry, guys. Right here. So he's saying, if you understood the gift of God, he calls it a gift. If you understood the invitation you were being offered, if you just got it for a little bit, your approach would be different. You would for sure, you wouldn't even say like, oh, I'm a Samaritan or a Jew. You would pour out that water, then I would pour back into you. Much more than you expected, much more than you needed. So for me, what I'm seeing here is what God is trying to pull out is worship. And what's funny is in preparing this message, I didn't even know there was going to be a worship night until 2 weeks ago? I didn't even know. And I think this is a definition God has been trying to shape to at least to me over time, what it actually means to worship and what that looks like and what it's supposed to be and what he requires of us. For us, I know we're used to worship being 3 slow songs after 3 fast songs. But it's not that. It can't be. Is that it? Like that little, that's it? Worship is the eternal reality for the believer. Like when we get to heaven, we're not going to hear sermons. We're not going to hear people giving us the Hebrew or Aramaic, definition of words. Like it's only worship. Like we're going to join the host of angels and the 24 elders and the 4 beasts around the throne worshiping. That's eternity for us. We're going to join into what the angels and the elders and the beasts have been doing for eternity already. So what Jesus is doing here is inviting her to something heavenly already. That's what he was saying. If you knew the gift of God and what was actually happening here, you would approach this thing differently. So when we sing the song like "Heaven Come Down," we want to speak like we want to see your kingdom here. It has to be like closer than Houston or Sugar Land. Like it has to be here. Like we want to see your kingdom here, like inside here. We want like worship to start here. And so when Jesus is saying, like, if you understood the gift, the magnitude of the invitation being offered to you, your response would be so different. You would easily give me the water I'm asking for, the worship, and then I in turn would give you living water. So much so that it will well up to a spring of living water inside of you. So what I don't like is the way, no, I'm going to say it like that. Okay, so I know we're used to like praise and worship in the beginning being like the setting of setting the atmosphere for the word. I feel like it's backwards. If worship is what is required of us, what the word is supposed to do is to get us to understand God a little more so we can worship him more. You see what I'm saying? It's not even about, I know we're used to going into worship like, man, I've had a long day, let me go worship. Or I need God to like reveal something to me, let me go worship. And that's not completely wrong. It's totally fine. But what we've done is make it about us. And it's not about you. Because if you think of the angels and the elders and the beasts that are already worshiping, they're not worshiping like, man, God, thank you so much for these golden crowns. You're so great. Like it's not about what he's done for them, what he can do for them. Literally, he created them and that's all they're there for. To tell him forever what he already knows about himself, that he is holy, that he is the Lord God Almighty, who was, still is, and is to come. That's literally all they do in heaven. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, who is, and is to come. Like that's literally all they're doing. And we're supposed to join into that. We were created for that purpose alone. The thing is, God loves us, but loving us is not the same as needing us. Because absent of us, he's still God. It's not like he's like, man, if they leave, I'm like 75% God now. Like he was already God. But it pleased him to create us to worship him. Like he already knows he's holy. Like he doesn't, it's not like he needs it. But he created us requiring of us that thing. He created angels just to continue telling him that. He just wants to hear the worship. So right here when Jesus is saying, give me a drink, I think, now this is just the way I read it and the way I took it. I think this is in chapter 19 when Jesus is on the cross and he's saying, I thirst. Now, anybody, any doctor or whoever can verify that our human body is 60, 70% water. And naturally, after being beaten, carrying the cross, sweating, all of that, he could naturally be thirsty. But to me, when he's saying, I thirst, he couldn't have been further away from the worship he was used to receiving in heaven at that point on the cross with all the sin on top of him. And he's saying, I thirst. Like, I need it. Like, I want that back. So when he's out asking this lady, give me a drink, he's like, this is a gift here. Like, he doesn't have to offer us that. He doesn't have to, invite us into heavenly things. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't have to do that. So when he's asking, give me a drink, let's deal with this issue. Okay, I'm asking you to worship me. Let's deal with the reason why you can't. Why you can't. You can't get it because you've preoccupied yourself with nonsense. There's a reason why 6 men haven't satisfied you. There's a reason why. Because that's not a void they were supposed to fill. And that can go with anything in life. It doesn't have to be like the opposite sex. It could be anything. There's a reason why those things will never satisfy you. And you'll keep going back to them. It's hilarious because as you're doing it, you know it's not filling you, but then you keep like doing it more as if it's supposed to magically do it. In Jeremiah, I want to say 2. Jeremiah chapter 2, I want to say verse 13. But God is saying here, my people have committed 2 evils. One, they've sought out cisterns and broken cisterns at that, instead of coming to me, the fountain of living water. This is just paraphrasing, of course. You've committed 2 things. You've done 2 things wrong. You've instead of coming to me, everlasting water, you've gone to find a cistern. A cistern is like a big vase that people keep their water in. You've gone to seek out cisterns, and even the cisterns you're seeking out are broken. It's like holding a bottle of water that has a hole at the bottom. It makes no sense. Why do you keep going to that? One, if the bottle was even whole, this water runs out. 2, it has a hole at the bottom. So the water you're drinking, you're not going to drink as much as is even in the bottle because it's going to be pouring out from one other end. It makes no sense. He's saying this, like, you're messing it up. And that's why he asked the lady, like, go get your husband. Let's talk about it. Now, I don't believe that God is primarily interested in, and I say primarily because I don't want anybody to like fight me through this. I don't think that God is primarily interested in our theology or in our like the way we exegete the word. Like he's not primarily interested in that. Like, of course, it's necessary to like understand the word properly, but it's not what he's primarily wanting. Like, we're not going to get to heaven and he's like, okay, let's look at the Aramaic version and the Hebrew, and those things are like those things. They're cool. They're really great. It helps with what we're doing, but he's saying here, like, I need to, like, let's get deeper. And I require of you worship. That's what I want. That's why I created you. Gave us free will to make it sweeter, actually, so you can see all the nonsense that's out there and realize how much more you need to worship me. And so when I sit here and I'm saying God is good and God is great and God is just, it's not, that's, of course, in light of all the wonderful things he's done, but it's more than that. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I was just telling her thank you. She did something wonderful for me. She did something great for me. And I was telling her thank you, and I was saying, I'm thanking you not because of what you've done, but because of, like, what made you do it. Like, the kind of person that you are. Because even if you didn't do this thing, I know the kind of person that you are, and I'm thanking you for being that person. You see what I'm saying? So that in essence, that's what we're supposed to do. Like, honestly, if God never did anything else for us, like nothing, if everything after the cross was eliminated, he would still be good. Look, even if he didn't give us the cross, like, still good. You see what I'm saying? Like, everything else is just extra. My little testimony yesterday, just extra. He didn't have to do it. Literally, the cross was enough. That was it. And so for him to sit here and invite us into a heavenly thing, and for us to like feel the weight of that, like what that means for him to say, I want you to worship me. And the exchange that happens. When we pour out worship to him, he pours back into us, not the other way around. It's not like, okay, we wait for him to give us stuff and then we're like, oh my God, God, you're so good. Then it just seems so fake. It's like somebody never calling you and then all of a sudden you do something for them. They're like, oh my God, you're so... It's just like, stop. I know you don't really like mess with me. We're not friends. Like, what is that? You yourself don't even like fake people. How much more a holy God? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that? How much more? And I think this is what I really thank God for like drilling this home. Like, let it sit in and understand. Like, even as we go into the worship lock-in tonight, like, let that like sink into you. Like, I'm being invited into a heavenly thing to join the host of angels that have been doing this for eternity. Like, God already has angels saying he's holy. already worshiping him, but he's like, I want y'all to do it too. Like I want to hear you say it. Like I want you to tell me I'm holy. Like I want to hear it. You're funny. But I'm saying like I want to hear it from you individually just because I created you. Isn't that the point? You know what I'm saying? Like isn't that worthy enough? Like isn't he worthy enough of that? And through all of this, I've been honestly, I've been I say battling with this thing because I feel like it's a definition that's been like, not let me say definition. I feel like it's something that I've been like shifting on. Like I know it a little bit and then like something else happens, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm over here. You know, and then I'm just like, you know, I'm like kind of switching in and out. But I think like, and it's funny through this entire week, God has been bringing this like topic, just the heart of worship back to like to my mind, just keeps like putting it everywhere. Like through this whole time, preparing the message and then finding out there's worship night tonight. Tomorrow, my church is doing a conference called Heart of Worship. Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's trying to say, like, you guys are not doing it how I want you to do it. I believe a revival is coming. But it's not going to look like what we expect or what we're used to. It can't. Because what we're used to is trash. It's not what he wanted. And I think if we're not paying attention, we're going to miss it. Like revive literally means to make alive again. What we're doing right now is not alive. It's not it. He's not looking for 3 like slow songs or to set the atmosphere. Like he's not looking for that. It's bigger than songs. It's bigger than like he's looking for a heart that does it. Like your lifestyle, everything. I want all of it. I don't want like Friday evening, 30 minutes. I want more than that. Like, don't you feel like God is tired of us singing songs, saying like, man, God, we want to see you here. And then we don't do things like we really want him to be here? Like, I feel like he's tired of like hearing that. We want to see your kingdom here. And then he's like, okay, I'm about to bring it. And then you're doing nonsense. He's like, okay, maybe not. You're saying like you yourself, you know you're childish. You know that you're like, you're not being about it. And he's saying like, I want it big. Like I actually want to bring my kingdom down. Like I want to do it. I want to literally bring heaven and earth and like joint like collision. I want them to join. I want to hear the angels. I want to hear y'all. Like, and I want it to just be this whole, you know, he wants to inhabit that. But then we're not doing it. But then we'll sing about it. Roll on the ground, cry a little bit. But then it can't be it. And he's saying he wants to revive this. But we somehow have to let him. And like anticipate it. And then when it comes, like actually like yield to it. And like literally pour out. If you understood the gift of God, what he was giving you, saying like, I want you to worship me. For him to like offer that to you. Like say like, give me a drink. For you to like be able to give God a drink. Like imagine that. Like I'm pouring water into the mouth of God. Like what is that look like? Like what is that? Not that he needs it, he wants it. And it's a privilege for me to even come to like worship him like that. And he's like, do that for me and I'll pour out more, way more for you. Good water. Like cold, crisp water. Like I'll do that for you. But first give me a drink. I'm thirsty. There's a thirst in the heart of God that we are to satisfy. And it's only worship. There was one thing I kept through this whole thing, I kept saying, like I even wrote it on my wall just to like remind myself. I kept saying like, God, I really want to be like to satisfy your thirst. Like when it comes to, I'm not saying like me by myself, I'm able to like quench it all, but I'm saying like when it comes to my entire life, I want that to be satisfying to you, like everything. Like when it comes to my entire life, I want like your thirst to be quenched when it comes to Chioma Lois. Like I want you to look and be pleased with me. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine God saying like, I am pleased in the way you're doing things. Like I like it. Like I wish other people did it like you. Like imagine how good that would feel for God to look you and say, man, Raymu, good job. Nobody else is doing it. Like this is what I want. The way you've been worshiping me, not here, but like just life, man. Like all of it. It's good. God is able to do he's God by himself. He can do literally everything. He's all powerful. Yet and still wants us to worship him. So it's really simple. And I'm grateful. Let me say, I'm grateful for, I guess, the way he's revealed it to me and taking what we know as salvation and like redemption, or salvation or redemption message, and like showing us deeper, like, okay, now that you've been saved and redeemed, worship me the right way. And I like how at the end of this whole story, this lady leaves and she goes out to her town and she's like, you guys come and see this man. They told me everything I ever did. Like, come and see him. And the people come, and the Bible records that they came and they listened and started worshiping God. Like they listened, they got it. Like other people were invited into that as well. You see what I'm saying? Like God is a very personal God, in that he created us just so he could like we could seek him and then he can know us and then we can talk about things like, man, I like this boy and I got a flat tire, and he just wants to like hear it. He wants to like build that with you. Does somebody like does anybody else like get like really like overwhelmed by that? Like a big God, he's big. And he's like, man, I want to know her. Like tiny, like I'm thinking he's like, to me, what I see is like God holding something in his hand and he's like zooming in like extra. And he's just searching. He was like, ooh, there she go. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, that's so big. Like there's so many other things you could like concern yourself with. But then me. And I know how trash I am. It's not like one of the righteous people, like the men of God that be doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not looking at those people who are really like, he's looking at them like the people who are going out and preaching and just giving to the poor, and they're just, then you in your heavy sin. He's like, come on, Janet, let's talk about it. Like what is that? To me, I don't know. My mind is just blown. Like when I think about like the grace of God, it's literally overwhelming. I'm just like, do you know that you don't have to concern yourself with me? You don't have to talk to me. And that's what she's doing here. I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew. We're not even supposed to talk, let alone share a cup. Why do you want something from me? Like, why do you want it from me? Like, there are other Jews that you could be talking to. Jew, you can get the water yourself. Why are you talking to me? Like, I immediately know how dirty I am. Why me? Like, why do I have to be the one to give you this drink? Like, why me? And he's like, look at the gift of God. Look at it. Just look. And I think as we go into, we end with worship. Like, I want you to like just think, sit and think. If you have to just be quiet and just let that just be the only thing you think about. That a holy God is handpicking you, and he's like, I want to hear you tell me I'm holy. And mean it. And then I'll just lavish myself on you. I just want to hear it, and then just watch me do it. Give me a drink, and then I'll give you living water. So much so that it overwhelms you. Becomes a spring of living water inside of you. And that's it. It's really simple. I guess this prayer, I just want us to like say this prayer, within ourselves. God, Father, I want to be one that satisfies your thirst. Like if you're ever thirsty, may it be me you come to. Like you think of, like, man, like Issy gives me good water. Like I want it. I guess the worship team can come up. I'm done. And we can close in worship and really like take it all in and really believe. Like we've turned worship into everything else, but what it's actually supposed to be. And God just really just wants to revive it and change the way that we are used to doing things. For the next few minutes, don't worry about like us up here or anybody else. And just like in your mind, zoom in to God. And like what it looks like for him to require something from you. Like what he wants. Like every aspect and every like part of your